Sup, guys? Sode back with you for Monday, March 17th. March has not been going very well for me. Obviously, it's been a losing month so far. Still barely up on the year. I did a bracket reaction show, like just early bracket analysis last night. So go check that out. I did like over an hour on that and had a little bit of fun with that. No actual bets there, although leaning pretty strongly in a couple directions, at least at this point in college basketball, which the play-in games start tomorrow, so we don't have a whole lot of time, really. Quick turnaround time. It is bracket analysis Monday and also St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. Boston, as a city, is already completely annihilated due to the partying over the weekend. Of course, everything is bracket analysis here, although they are talking about the women's tournament as well, which I think their selection shows today. I don't even know. Who cares? Selection Sunday was yesterday. The bracket is out. Go check my analysis out on that. I also ranted about my own 3-day yesterday. I don't really think the games weren't really that close. The Hawks maybe should have gotten there as they were winning in the second half. The other two games are just dead. I apologize. Terrible day. I was doing fairly well again leading up into yesterday. So let's, I feel like we're just treading water here, man. This has not been good so far this year. Very slight win this year so far. Let's get into hockey first. I have two plays today that are both in the NBA. I'm not playing NHL at all. Hockey, my Boston Bruins, who are pretty much dead now, playing Buffalo in Boston. Bruins down from -130 to -122. Money is coming in on Buffalo, driving the line down. You got 81% of the cash on Buffalo, 55% of the tickets on Buffalo. I don't agree with this particular move, though. I would lean to Boston in this one. I mean, the Bruins are now at a 500 record, which I think is going to maybe be a little bit of an extra motivator. Because you're sitting at 500, man. I mean, you tend to want to try to break out of that. You don't want to fall to a losing record, especially when you haven't had one all season. That it doesn't look good, mentally. Although I think they did at the very beginning of the season. But yeah, you know what I mean. Since then, they have not. So coming off an ugly 6-2 loss, allowing 6 goals in the last 2 games with Swayman in the net both times. I mean, what do you even want at this point? Korpisalo may play in this game instead, and that's probably not even a bad thing the way that Swayman has been playing. Bruins coming off, again, those ugly losses, allowing a ton of goals in those games. The Ottawa spot was a bad spot. Tampa Bay was in a revenge spot, so I was right in my lean in both of those. Probably should just be playing these games. I don't want to play this one, but Buffalo is coming off of a win over Vegas, which is a pretty big win. But they are starting a road trip, which does tend to be a focus spot when you start a road trip because you want to get it off on the right foot. So I'll pass on the game. The market disagrees with me on that one. I lean to the Bruins in that one. New Jersey and Columbus. I'll talk about the games that aren't these huge favorites where I just don't really give a shit. New Jersey's coming off a horrendous loss, 7-3 to Pittsburgh. I think that was a bad spot. It was a sandwich spot basically after they beat Edmonton, which was a huge win. They did beat Columbus the game before that, and now they have Columbus again. Columbus is trying to get into the playoffs here, man. And the Devils are already probably pretty much secure and having a playoff spot. So the game does matter more to Columbus, but it is a bounce back spot for New Jersey after an ugly loss. But I do think the situational setup is actually better for Columbus otherwise. If ESPN will load, Columbus is coming off getting shut out by the Rangers, which, yeah, that's a big game because they're facing the Rangers, the Rangers are also fighting for a playoff spot. That was with Tarasov in net, who's the lesser of the two goalies for Columbus there. Elvis should return to the building tonight and be back in net here. Columbus coming off 2 straight shutout losses, 3 losses in a row, 5 of their last 6 after they were hot before that. I think it is a bounce back spot for them. It is revenge where they can adjust and play better against New Jersey this time. So I would lean to Columbus for those reasons. Columbus needs the game more as well because they're really fighting to get into the playoffs. But again, the market read looks against what I think. New Jersey is down from -135 to -130, but Columbus somehow is a very public underdog here, which is not really what you want to see, especially a home public underdog. 78% of tickets and only 71% of the cash. That would give me quite a bit of hesitation seeing the money, where the money is in that game. I really don't like it. So I will stay away from that one as well. And then LA at Minnesota. LA starting a road trip, coming off, they're on a win streak right now. Coming off beating Nashville in overtime. They had a big win over Washington the game before that. Starting a road trip, you do tend to be focused. Like I keep saying, you want to get that road trip off right. Minnesota's the bigger of the two teams they face on the road trip. They got a bit of a break after this, so I think they will be focused on Minnesota, who, as I keep saying, is an overrated team. They have a pretty good record, but the odds makers are telling you that LA is actually the better team. Minnesota coming off a couple bad losses at home, especially this bad loss to St. Louis, but I was on St. Louis in that game because Minnesota was coming off a couple of tough games against Colorado and the Rangers and had LA up next. So I liked St. Louis in that game. I got that one right. Minnesota, finding spots to fade them is not the worst idea because, again, I think they're overrated. LA, as the road favorite, kind of tells you that Minnesota's not that good according to the odds makers, as I've been saying all year pretty much. LA up from minus 140 to minus 145. 83% of tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on them. So the money is coming in on LA and moving on LA. I don't really disagree with it. I mean, I think both teams are going to be focused. And if that's the case, you'd probably want to lean to the better team, which is LA. Let's go to the NBA, and then we'll get out of here. First game in the NBA is a game that I have a play on, I think, right? What am I looking at here? Oh, yeah, I'd scroll down too much. This ESPN game that's up, we're going to play this one, and it's going to be taking the points with Miami plus 7.5. Let's do this one. I mean, if you look at the standings, I don't even know if it really matters that much to the Knicks, really, but it's a bad spot for the Knicks, which I'll explain in a minute. But the Knicks really have a big gap here between their spot and second and fourth. So they're way behind the Celtics, and they're pretty significantly ahead of Milwaukee. So they're going to almost be locked into the 3 seed at this point. Miami still has reason to show up in these games, man, because they're in this stupid play-in grouping here where they have a chance to move up and actually could play to try to host one of these games. They're not that far off. They're only 2 games back of Orlando, and that would mean they'd be able to host a game if they get there. So I think Miami is going to be the more motivated team here, and the Knicks are coming back from a trip to the West Coast. So it's a bad spot for the Knicks. They've been away for over a week. They've been away since the 6th. And as I keep telling you, man, when teams return home from long road trips like this, they got to get stuff done back at home because they haven't been at home for a while. It tends to be a bit of a distraction. The Knicks, again, they may not totally be focused here because they're already not totally locked into their seed, but it's going to take a lot for them to move out of the 3 spot here. Miami has more to play for, and they're getting a ton of points, and the Knicks are in a bad spot. So I like this. The Knicks are also coming off playing Golden State really close 2 nights ago, 6.5-point underdogs. This game almost went right to the wire. Knicks made a nice comeback in the second half. They were behind most of the game, tied it with a couple of minutes left, and then fell just short. So that was a big performance out of them at Golden State as well. So I don't like how the spot sets up whatsoever for the Knicks here. Miami's coming off an embarrassing 34-point loss to Memphis. I know Memphis is good. And yeah, I'm going to jump in front of this train where Miami has lost 7 straight games to fall into the spot. They got to get something done here. And I mean, you can't blame them for losing by 5 to Cleveland, by 2 to Minnesota, and then coming off those 2 close games. I think I actually played Chicago in this game. And Chicago, I think actually maybe missed by a point, but that was a bad spot. I can't really explain the Charlotte loss and the bounce back there. And then they lost to the Clippers, Boston, and Memphis again. So those are all good teams. So in this stretch, it's been kind of a gauntlet, man. Miami's played a lot of good teams. That they were coming off that game against Boston, and then they had to go face Memphis in a back-to-back 3rd game in 4 days. Not an easy spot at all. They got absolutely blasted. I think this is a turnaround spot. This is a bounce-back spot for Miami to try to go 1-1 on this road trip as well and not go 0-2 here. It's also a conference game, whereas the Memphis game was not, so it's a bit more meaningful. Yeah, we're going to go with Miami in this one for all those reasons. I think it's a more positive spot for them. Looking at the market, how that's shaping up, the Knicks just sitting in a 7.5-point favorite, 57% of tickets, 65% of the cash on the Heat. So more of the money coming in on the Heat. I agree with that. That's one of the 2 NBA plays. Next up, let's see. Indiana, Minnesota is a pretty decent game. I'm trying to skip some of these games that are just uglier. This game at least involves playoff teams. Indiana coming off a loss to Milwaukee, but they're facing a 3rd straight road game. Not really an easy spot for Indiana, really. It's also a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. Tough spot. They should show up focused, though, for a game against Minnesota. I mean, we know Minnesota is a good team. Minnesota just staying at home, though, so they do have a bit of an edge because they are staying at home, a bit of a travel edge. They are playing on a back-to-back, though, so they're playing 3 games in 4 days. Both teams are, but Minnesota's playing a back-to-back. It's just they don't have travel. And they've won a whole bunch of games in a row here, 8 games in a row. So it's kind of like you're stepping in front of a train if you do want to fade Minnesota there. But then again, Minnesota might be a little bit overvalued because of that recent play. You're probably getting more value on the Pacers. T-Wolves up from 5 to 7.5. They got 64% of tickets, only 61% of the cash. So the money less so than the tickets on the T-Wolves. So the market read kind of indicating on Indiana there. I mean, they do have more rest at the very least. And I don't know if the line move up is because of some injury situation. Looks like Nesmith, Miles Turner, both game time decisions. Siakam is out. I don't know how long he's been out. Shaquille O'Neal, Siakam, I guess is his name. He's out for personal reasons. So he's not even injured. He's just out for personal reasons. He played in the last game, so he's going to be out. But I think that may turn into kind of like an injured player theory spot if that's the case. But then again, Indiana might be getting some guys back. Halliburton, also a game time decision. So there are a lot of moving pieces here. And Conley is for Minnesota, but he's not really a big piece anymore. So Indiana, you really got to look at who's in and who's out. Siakam is going to be out for this game. But other than that, you got to see if some of these guys are coming back. Although if they do, then that might mean the line's going to move back towards the Pacers. I think this line move probably is going to be indicating that maybe Halliburton's not going to play in this game. We will see. So it's a tough game to read. I'm not going to play it. I know some of the games that I do play, I don't even pay attention to personnel, but still, we'll see. This ESPN game, the other ESPN game, the late night is Denver and Golden State. This is a pretty good game. Golden State obviously started playing pretty well since they got Jimmy Butler, unfortunately, because I can't stand the guy. Warriors up from 4 to 4.5. So the market read, I mean, I don't see percentages yet. The lines moved up a little bit on the Warriors, but I'm not sure I agree with that. Denver's coming off a loss to the Washington Wizards, so they got to be in bounce back mode, man. And that there's no way that you would have expected them to lose this game, but it was a bad spot for them. That was a sandwich spot. I kind of overlooked that. I think maybe I mentioned it on the show, but I probably should have actually taken the points with Washington. I mean, it's not a surprise that Washington covered as a double-digit underdog there, but it is surprising that Denver actually lost outright in a game where they're a 12.5-point favorite, even though they were in a bad spot. They were coming off that big game over LA, or I played Denver in that. Wait, did I play Denver in that game? Maybe I didn't. No, I think I leaned to Denver. I didn't play them. I played Minnesota in this game against Denver because Denver was off the Oklahoma City win. That was a sandwich spot, even though Minnesota is good. I won on that game on Minnesota. That's what it was. Then Denver played LA. Big win. And then after that run of big games, they lost to Washington on back-to-back. They had Golden State and LA again up next. So it was a sandwich spot as well. So you can kind of explain why Denver didn't play well. Now they just get to get out of home, go on the road, and they're going to be focused, man. After that bad home loss, going to face Golden State, you're definitely going to get a focused effort out of Denver when the spot sets up like this. Golden State's just on a roll right now again, on another win streak. They've won 7 games in a row. They just beat the Knicks for the second straight time. They've beaten some decent teams in here, no like real world beaters. The Knicks are the best team they beat in the stretch, and the Knicks have been without Brunson. I don't know if they were without him in the first game. They were without him in the second game, though. So that's the situation. I don't know when Brunson's even coming back, man. So kind of a tough situation for the Knicks there. Close game, though. The Warriors got it done in a close battle, and now they get Denver. So I would lean to taking the points with Denver in this one if I was going to play it. I'm not going to, but that's the way that I would lean. We have Memphis at Sacramento. That's a decent game as well. Memphis coming off destroying Miami, and now they're going out on the road. As I always say, even though they might be feeling a bit high on themselves after that win by 34 points, you tend to be focused when you start a road trip, and Sacramento's a team that's going to gain more focus than like Portland will. So they might actually show up focused in this game to start the road trip, try to get it off on the right foot, even though they are coming off a big win. Sacramento's coming off a real ugly loss to Phoenix. They're on a bad losing streak right now. They are returning home from a road trip, but I don't consider it to be a really bad spot because it was only a 2-game road trip. So they've only been away for a couple days, and they lost horribly in both those games to Golden State and Phoenix. Now they're coming back home off of that. I think you are going to get focus out of Sacramento there. They're in the spot that I think is a heavier bounce back spot, even though should be a focus spot for Memphis as well. But Memphis still might be riding a bit high off of that blowout win. So I would lean to Sacramento if I was going to play this one. The market seems to agree with that one, and Grizzlies are a public underdog here. 70% of tickets, only 67% of the cash. The line moving up on the Kings from 1.5 to 2 with juice. So all the market indicators that I look for indicating on the Kings right now is a home favorite, but the public likes the other side. That is dangerous to want to be on a public underdog, man. So I would lean to the favorite there. Washington, because they're coming off that win over Denver. I don't like the spot that Washington is in. I think they could be in a letdown spot after that. That was a huge win at Denver, I believe. And now they're coming down out of elevation, down to Portland. Portland's on a back-to-back, though, but they are staying at home. They had a big-time rest before that game, and they were able to beat Toronto, which breaks a loss streak for them. So Portland was on a losing streak. They lost to pretty much all good teams in that losing streak. Some of the best teams in basketball mixed in there. So I'm not going to knock Portland for losing all those games, but I think having that extra time off and then beating Toronto, I think helps break that losing momentum for them. So even though they are in a back-to-back, I would lean to Portland in this game. Washington's had a day off where they are having to travel out of elevation and coming off a ridiculous upset win, actually back-to-back upset wins in the zigzag over Detroit, and then in elevation, it's double-digit underdogs against Denver. So I would lean to Portland. Portland's sitting at a 4.5-point favorite. 79% of tickets, 88% of the cash coming in on Portland. I like the spot for Portland there. And then the other game that I'm actually going to play is this late-night game here, and I'm going to fade the Lakers. I'm going to take San Antonio +9 here. I'm kind of tempted, by the way, to take Sacramento and Portland. I like the spot for Portland quite a bit. I just don't know if I can quite bring myself to do it on the back-to-back, though. But I'm going to fade the Lakers, even though we're looking at a line that's up from 8.5 to 9. I know they've been good at home with Luka there. The LeBron is still out. 73% of tickets, 97% of the cash. The money is coming in on the Lakers for now, but they are going to be public. And this is a rare spot where the Lakers are playing a 4th game in 5 nights, which is something you don't see anymore in the NBA. The NBA has changed their scheduling to spread it out more. But look at this. They played a back-to-back at Milwaukee and Denver, had 1 day off, came home and played Phoenix, and I got caught, and they actually beat Phoenix in that game. Maybe they were focused just because Phoenix has Durant and whatever. I don't know what the deal was there. Maybe to bounce back from that road trip. I thought it was a bad spot in the return home from the road trip. But now I think this has got to be the spot where they overlook their opponent, man, because now they're on another back-to-back after beating Kevin Durant. And who do they have up on Wednesday? They got Denver again, and they just lost at Denver in the prior game on the 14th on Friday. So it's a quick turnaround revenge spot there. So I think it's a look ahead. I think they may very well overlook this Wembless San Antonio team here. Not only are they Wembless, but they also lost De'Aaron Fox. So you're looking at a really thin San Antonio roster. But a lot of these times, man, these guys step up to account for these players not being there. San Antonio, first game without Wemba, they actually lost to Charlotte. Then they did bounce back from that. That was an ugly loss because they were coming off a nice win over Dallas, so maybe that's why in that injury fest there. They bounced back and beat New Orleans, and that may have been the game, the injured player theory game, but still now they're starting a road, or not starting a road trip. They're going out on the road for 1 game, which usually is a weird spot, but you got to think they're going to be focused when they're playing the LA Lakers, man. You get to play against Luka. I think San Antonio is going to show up for this game, and they got that win, so they're kind of breaking that losing momentum a little bit. They're still playing hard, which is good. That's a good indicator. So I like this, and again, the spot is just really bad for the Lakers. You never really see this anymore. 4 games in 5 days. It's possible they rest some guys in this game as well. Hachimura might actually come back, though, in this game, but I don't think that really changes the handicap that much. If he does, I think you just get a little bit of extra value on the Spurs, so I like the Spurs there, and that's going to do it for my plays here today, man. Just 2 basketball road underdogs. It looks like we're in treacherous territory here, but Miami +7.5 on the Heat there, and on the Spurs, San Antonio +9. That's going to do it for me. Short video now that college basketball is ending. That's going to do it for me, although we'll have longer videos again once we do have college basketball games, but they won't be as long as having full slates of college basketball. That's going to do it for me, man. Although we do have the college basketball crown now is happening instead of, I think the CBI or CIT, one of those is not even like happening anymore. I don't even know what the deal is. And some of these teams like Indiana are just refusing to play at all. Bullshit, because you want to fade those disappointed teams, as I talked about last night. But whatever. Tower Gang Tone on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang, and you get bonus content for the most offensive, hilarious podcast out there. That's going to do it for me. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.